Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Frozen Woodworker. Today we are going to be doing part 2 of this chair repair, and we'll be doing the actual repairs today. As you may recall, there was a small split in the wood right here. So what we're going to do is we'll take the screwdriver, we'll open up that split a little bit, and then we'll take a syringe with glue. We get these from the veterinary section of a local store. Squeeze a little glue in there, and that should about do her. Take the screwdriver out and squeeze it up together, and then if you hold on just 1 minute, I'm going to get a different mending. And then we'll take one of these mending plates right here, a little flat one with 4 holes in it. And we're going to put it along the inside edge of this here. Get up on my stool so I can get up here higher. There's one screw. Two screws. Three screws. And the fourth. And I'll pull you up here so you can take a good look at what we got going on. And this is the mending plate that we put on. Here is where the crack is, and that glue will help hold it together, and so will this mending plate. We got another one. We have another one right there. It's a little bit worse. And we're going to do the same thing over there. Alright, we fixed that other part. We're going to get to work on fixing the real bad part here, and we're kind of figure it out as we go along here. I'm going to take my, take my glue and my handy dandy glue brush here. Start getting some glue on the inside of these joints that have separated. I'm going to start over here. That's separated out. This over here is separated out. Get a little more glue in this one. And finally, this here is separated out some. A little scrap of wood laying in that one. I had to pull that out so it doesn't impede our work in here. And we're being plenty generous with the glue because as much as these mending plates hold, it's really the glue that holds it the most. And we're going to put some clamps on here to see if we can't bring this back up to where it's supposed to be. That didn't hold very well. There, it's coming up. Squeeze there. And this one here is not quite all the way up either. Let's see if we can't squeeze this up a little bit more. That might be as good as we get now. First thing we're going to do is we are going to put some 2.5 inch screws into this part right here. Drop, we'll give it a dropsy there. Put it right about here. And take this clamp off. Put a couple more screws in here. Okay. Stick one more longer screw in there too. And I'm feeling off to the side here, making sure the screw didn't go off kittywampus to the side of the board. Now I'm going to take one of these mending brackets and put it right here. I'm actually going to put 2 of these on here, so I want to make sure there is room for both of them. I got to switch back to a Phillips bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use these longer screws on this instead of the short Phillips bits that come with it. Stick one right there. Drop the screw down in here. I should be able to take this clamp off. Put the second mending brace right up here. What I'm doing is there's just a little bit of wood that's left remaining up here, still attached, and I'm using these long screws to go through that little chunk of wood to help hold the mending bracket in place, because the top chunk of wood is still attached to the chair the way it's supposed to be. You know what, I'm going to use the other style mending bracket. That way we get onto this other piece of wood as well. And the second piece of wood that I'm going into isn't as thick as this is here in that direction. So I am going to use the small Phillips screws that come with the mending plates. And use those to screw this bracket on there. And they should hold plenty strong. Alright, the only thing left is this part right here. See what a mending plate will look like on here. I think if we do one like this, that'll do us well. And since most of the pressure is going to these front screws, I'm taking the Phillips bit off, putting the T25 back on, so I can use these 2.5-inch screws up front there, where most of the pressure is going to be. Ooh, I have just enough screws to finish the job. I'll take a better look at this, see if I should add anything more. I think this is good. I think I may add a couple of 3-inch screws right from this angle into here. But other than that, we're fine. So give me just a moment here. I'll go get those 3-inch screws and I'll add them right there. Alright, I'm back. And what we're going to do is we're going to put these through this piece of wood into this piece of wood. Alright, that's all we got for this. Now next, if you recall, we have to fix these broken spring stays here. So I'll go get Jen and we will start on that right away.
Okay, so marking on this chair that we're fixing the spring setup on. So now we're going to actually go and reinforce the springs. For the surface area that the cushion covers, it doesn't have enough support. So we're going to add some support and replace some broken support, which kind of ties together a little bit. This ball of wire, if that's the way to describe it, it's actually coiled wire that's wrapped in craft paper. This actually goes between S-springs that are underneath 90% of cushions and couches, recliners, whatever. And they help so when the cushion gets pushed on, it flexes as one big unit versus individually. And that's what gives you your stiffer cushion, your more support when you're sitting down. So if you feel like you sit down and it's really like, oh, there's like no support there, it probably doesn't have much of this, or something's broken. So those are the two problems usually. So if you want, we'll turn it down to the chair and you'll see inside the chair there's only 2 sets. There's one here, if you can see that. Okay, there's one here and there's one here. But from here to here, that is not enough support going across. So now I'm going to go and cut these. This coil is going to unravel and it's going to be a mess. But that's alright. I'll tape it back up when I'm done. And we're going to cut lengths and I'm going to put 3 rungs in. Or 3 runs of this stuff in. There we go. Like I said, it's kind of a mess when it comes out. Okay, so first I gotta measure. So I gotta go in and see how long I need it. And I don't want it to necessarily go past the spring, because if there's a end sticking up past the spring, then it has a chance of poking the cushion. So like if this was at the end hanging over, that could poke into the cushion when the cushion's down and tear into the cushion. I don't know if you could see that or not, but basically you only want to go as far as your spring goes, nothing extra. Alright, so I'm just laying it down and then I'm going to snip it. And these snips are kind of heavy duty, and you need that because this wire is really thick. This wire sucks to cut. Alright. And sometimes you have to do a couple cuts, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of wiggling. Alright, so now I'm going to make sure that that's the right length, now that the whole thing can fit in here. And then I'm going to cut 2 more just like it. Yeah, that'll get me from end to end without going over. So I'm going to cut 2 more like it so I can get that out of the way. Just line it up. You got to watch the curve because obviously that you have to account for the curve in the wire so that way you actually get the right length. Oh. It's one of those times where I think I should have done more of those. They used to be popular, have those hand stress tools that makes your grip really strong, and if you're a typer they recommend it because then your hands don't get stiff when you're typing a bunch. Before doing all this I used to have a couple typing jobs, and I regret not doing more of that hand strengthening stuff when I'm doing this. Because like I said, it is a thicker wire that you gotta cut. Almost as thick as the spring you're attaching it to. There we go. Alright, I'm going to leave my big chunk of wire on the ground just because it's not a trip hazard because I'm the only one in here, and then I'll clean that up after. I'm going to set my tool down. I have another tool I'm going to use. It's a fancy tool. You can't see it good in the video, but it clamps over the clamps that have to go on this coil around the spring so that it holds it in place. If you don't have one of these, they're a little pricier. It's a CS Osborne one. They're really handy, but it's a very specific tool. This is the only time you need it. Worst case, if you're having to do just a couple of these, channel locks work also. So, alright, now I just gotta line these up. And I don't know if you can see that, but this is kind of the clamp that's going to go around the wire. So let's see. Alright, so I'm going to go right here, start at the end to make sure it lines up. You know, my hand is in the way, but you can see down in there. And then I got to get the clamp around it. So I got to put it on actually kind of upside down so I can get the clamp to grab it. Or my new pliers to grab it. Oh. This takes a second to line everything up. And like there, I got to get that open again because I'll fix this one because I just got it started because as you can see the wire's giving me grief. I'll go back and fix it because that is not going to hold. But I need to get one in there, but I don't want the wire to be longer than the springs, remember? So I wanted to get one lined up first. And that's common, and it's not that big of a deal to pull it apart with a pair of pliers. I mean, it's okay. It's just the underside of a chair or couch. And it's better to pull it apart versus being so paranoid that it's perfect each time and then have problems. Alright, here we go. There. And then like this, it's sticking up just a little bit still, so I'll have to go in and reclamp it. And sometimes I still grab the channel locks. Actually, Mark is in here still, so Mark, can you let me the channel locks for when I need to touch these up? Alright. And then I'll start putting a couple more of these on. This clamps way better though, this tool, than when I use just channel locks. That took forever. Because then you got to do it like 3 times to get it all lined up, and oh, that was a headache. So now I can get it in there, and then I can crimp it better with the channel lock. But trying to line it all up the first time and doing this and it's all bending all over the place, oh my goodness. That other tool was very nice. Oh. And even with the channel locks, it's still not the best, but part of my problem is the chair that I'm working on is huge comparatively. And so I'm standing on the edge of my table trying not to fall off here for safety reasons. Ugh. And all you're doing, because the metal that we're using to clamp the wire to the springs is thin enough that it bends halfway decent to wrap it around. It's just, then you got to get it just right. Yeah, just a sec, I gotta move my ladder so I can step down to get this last one. Because now that I have two here, I can go back to this one, as you can see that I missed. I can open it up and fix it. And this is not the first time I've had to do this. Just like I said, that getting that first one in there is always a thing. And all we're trying to do is just get the wire on the right side of it. This is an odd thing. Who would have thought you'd have to use that much for upholstery? I'm gonna grab another set of pliers real quick, just a sec. All right, here we go. Sometimes different ends of channel locks are nicer than others. You always are trying to find ones that have good grips at the end and stuff like that. There we go. Pulled it apart enough, now I just have to get the wire back in there. There. So now it's in the right spot. So now I can go and clamp it again, and this time it won't bend all over the place on me. And if you feel like your clamp got distorted too much, you can always grab another one, because it's not a big deal. These things are really, really cheap, and you get a big package of them when you order them. A couple of upholstery shops that sell them. Fabricsupply.com is one of them. And then also you can get small kits of it off of Amazon, but I like using Fabric Supply. I go through them for a lot of our like extra tools, even like when I do buttons and stuff like that too for chairs. Almost got it back on. The angle of what you got to work with in the chair is always a challenge too, because that's, you know, its own headache. Not every chair, especially when you're doing repair work, do you have all the room in the world. If you're taking it apart fully from scratch, I do this from the top, and I'd have a little bit better angle on it because I wouldn't have these boards in the way. But then if I'm doing a repair, I gotta take all the fabric off and put it back on, and you have better chance of risking the new the fabric that's on there, and if they're not replacing the fabric, that's not a good thing. So it's easier just to kind of, if you can, work from the bottom. And thankfully, most chairs we can. All right, now I'm just gonna work my way down and keep going with these. And now you also see after that last one why it's good to try to line them up best the first time around versus having to redo them. I mean, like I said, if you got to do it again, it's not the end of the world. The first one, a lot of times I have to redo, so. The other thing you gotta watch is like this tool has a big end here and then two here, and it's to go, when you're going to clamp it, it's so that when you push it on, it clamps and pushes this end, pushes here, and these push this in, so that way it, you know, works the way you want it to. So when you're going to clamp your wire, that's one of the things you got to watch, is make sure your pliers or your tool is going the right way. And that's where this tool is nice, because then you don't have to do it 3 times around. Like I said, sometimes I still go in and I'll make sure with the channel locks that they're all up in there nice and tight, because that's a smart thing to do too. Because with the big bulky tool, it gets it most of the way but not quite all the way. Don't want anything sticking out, because then it could wiggle out later, and that's not good. And if you can see, these ones didn't wiggle off. They're still there, but the wire broke. And I mean, this chair, the lady told me she's had it for like 30 years, so it's bound to happen. I'm gonna walk to the other side of the table and start doing the other ones. All right. I've got all the springs supports done. We did the bracing and everything. We tied in the spring supports in there, so now when it flexes as one big unit instead of individual springs. The last thing to do before putting the legs back on is the black stuff that everybody sees underneath their chairs, and that cats really like to tear up. This is called cambric. Some people refer to it as like the dust covering and stuff, but now we're gonna tack this on. It's a really big space. And typically this stuff comes in 3-foot wide rolls, so we're actually going to end up using 2 pieces of it. So it'll be a little different than most chairs that you'd see. Normally we try to get away with just 1 per chair. One thing you want to make note of is where your feet go, because you're going to have to find those holes later to get your feet through the cambric. So just kind of, they're on this corner, and the 2 adjacent ones up there. Just like I said, make note of that. But then what we do is we make sure it's a little longer than the actual piece.
When this came off,
oh yeah,
it was coming out in the middle with a small piece on either side, if this will reach.
Okay, that's how it came off?
Yeah, but they must have had bigger stuff in the factory than...
Yeah, they had bigger stuff in the factory. Mark was the one that actually took it off, so...
in a previous video.
Yeah. Alright, so what we're going to do though is we're going to do this. We're going to go either way and use the center support to tack it down the middle here. Okay? But we're going to overlap it, because you should not have like an exposed seam and all that jazz. Because that's not cool. Okay. Oh, sorry about that, Mark. I forgot about that. I saw it before he took it off. Alright, so, and we definitely have excess, but that's not the end of the world. You can trim it or whatever. A lot of times, depending on how much excess I have, I'll pull it so it's like this, and I still have a lot of excess here. Mark, can you hand me those scissors there? And I kind of trim it as I go, and then I have a folded edge. Think like making wrapping a present and making that nice pretty edge so you don't have the jagged edge where you cut the fabric or cut the paper. I do the same thing when I do this. So I'm just going to cut that off. Stick my scissors in my pocket so I can get to them. Now I'm going to take the edge, so it's not the cut edge, and I'm going to fold it under on this, and then I'll staple it down. And for these, I just use 1/2-inch staples. And it's a circle, so you got to kind of work with that too. So you're constantly making like folds in it and everything, just it's a circle. And I'm just tacking it to the center board so it's not going to flop down on them. honestly, unless you look at the bottom side of your chair, most time nobody ever sees what this looks like. I just gotta move my step stool because I'm short and I need additional height. Alright. We just keep working our way around. Like I said, just keep tucking it in.
Well, Jen's got the cambric all on here. I went and poked some holes in the cambric and screwed the feet on here. And this chair is ready to go back to the customers. Just Jen's got to make a couple of cushions for it.
Yeah, because she had cushions, but like I said, the chair's about 30 years old for their family. So the cushions were kind of flattened and the fabric was worn. So she asked if that was another part of our project for this customer, was replacing those with some fresh cushions and kind of reviving it for the next generation. So, yeah.
Yep, so this chair should be good for another 30 years after we get it all together here and get it delivered back to them, and then the next week or two after we make the cushions.
Yep.
Alright, have a good day, stay safe in your shops, and we'll see you later.
See you later. Bye.